There are few things certain in this life: death, taxes, and that as time progresses, our history grows. Not only history, but legends, tales, stories, myths that describe important events, people, and places, which all vary greatly between the many cultures of Earth. But a legend that remains consistent throughout these cultures is that of the giant. Creatures that are much like humans except for one glaring detail: their size. Many believe that the giants once roamed the earth and were seen as mythical beings, or perhaps even gods. But these days, we ask them how the weather is up there. Today I'm taking up the giant task of bringing you the top 5 terrifying real giants in history that actually existed. Starting off at number 5, Robert Wadlow. Often referred to as the Alton Giant or the Alton, Illinois Giant, Robert Wadlow holds the title of tallest person in recorded history, with his max height sitting at 8 feet 11 inches tall. Born on February 22nd, 1918 in Alton, Illinois, Wadlow's extraordinary height was attributed to hypertrophy of his pituitary gland, which results in an immense increase of human growth hormones, otherwise known as gigantism. From a very young age, it was evident that Robert was no ordinary child. At just 6 months old, he was already taller and heavier than most infants his age. As he grew older, his height accelerated at an alarming rate due to his excessive growth hormone production. By the time he turned 8, Robert was already 6 feet 2 inches tall, and his remarkable growth trajectory showed no signs of slowing down. While for some this may sound like a dream, the towering height came with a long list of challenges, as Wadlow had to face numerous physical difficulties and social obstacles. Finding suitable clothing and footwear was an ongoing struggle for the giant, often requiring custom-made items to accommodate his size 37 shoes and 8'11 stature. Despite these challenges, Wadlow faced his circumstances with grace and humility, endearing himself to people wherever he went. However, as Wadlow grew older, his massive size became an ever-increasing burden. His body struggled to support itself, causing chronic pain and discomfort. He would even have to wear a leg brace and a cane just to support his oversized legs, suffering by simply standing upright. Furthermore, the fame that came with his colossal height was a double-edged sword. While people marveled at his size, they rarely saw the lonely and broken soul that lay beneath. His life became a parade, a circus act, as he was put on display like a sideshow attraction. He was robbed of privacy, forced to perform like a circus animal, and was never truly seen as a human being. Despite his attempts to lead a normal life, the world wouldn't let him forget the elephant in the room. Every step he took was met with stares and whispers. Genuine connections were elusive, as people couldn't look beyond his abnormality. Even as he tried to pursue education and dreams, he was met with skepticism and ridicule, overshadowed by his monstrous appearance. The constant pressure of being a public figure, combined with his debilitating health issues, took a toll on Robert Wadlow's mental and emotional well-being. The darkness within him grew, a deep sadness that was difficult to comprehend. He found solace in charity work, attempting to find purpose in his pain, but it was a fleeting respite from the reality of his existence. His short life came to a devastating end when an infection caused by an ill-fitting leg brace led to his untimely death on July 15, 1940. He was only 22 years old. The world mourned the loss of a giant, but few truly understood the magnitude of his suffering. In death, he found the peace that he was missing in life, but his tragic story remains etched in history, haunting those who dare to reflect on the dark side of our humanity. Next at number 4, Atlas. Atlas was a titan who once fought in the Titanomachy, a war between the gods and titans of Greek myth over who would have dominion over the universe. It ended in the victory of the Greek gods and left the Titans at a loss, with those who survived to face all sorts of punishments. While many of the Titans were condemned to Tartarus, Atlas in particular was condemned to something far more sinister. His fate was to hold up the heavens itself, the weight of the celestial sphere pressing down upon his massive shoulders. Atlas was cast into the desolation of the western edge of the world, a realm cloaked in perpetual night, where the very fabric of reality seemed to fray. Here Atlas stood, his once majestic form reduced to a grotesque monument of his transgressions. His immense shoulders sagged under the crushing weight of the sphere, a sinister quilt of stars and galaxies that bore down upon him with a malevolence that defied mortal comprehension. The heavens themselves, once a source of wonder and awe, became instruments of torment, a constant reminder of his defiance and its dire consequences. He was given relief of his duties only once, when the demigod Heracles needed his help in completing one of his 12 divine labors. Heracles sought the golden apples of Hesperides, said to grant immortality to whomever ate them. But to reach these sacred fruits, one must first navigate the treacherous, labyrinthine depths of the realm where Atlas stood sentinel, burdened by his eternal penance. Heracles asked Atlas to retrieve the apples for him as he took up his celestial burden while waiting, finally a break from his ceaseless agony. But upon retrieving them, thinking he was free, Heracles tricked Atlas, asking the Titan to hold the heavens for a brief moment while he readjusted his cloak, placing the eternal burden back on Atlas once again. He would then have another encounter with Perseus, yes, like Percy Jackson, in which the demigod asks Atlas to use his realm for shelter, but is refused due to his lack of trust after being tricked by Heracles. In response, Perseus would turn Atlas to stone using the head of Medusa. But this didn't just turn him into a statue, but an entire mountain range, with Atlas's head as the peak, his shoulders the ridges, and his hair the lush forestry. This mountain range is now known as Atlas Mountains, located in North Africa, where he continues to hold the heavens, even as stone. The mountain range is super pretty though, so thanks Percy. Oh, and if you guys are liking the video so far, why not press that thumbs up, it'll help us out in the long run. Coming in at number 3 is Emperor Maximinus. Emperor Gaius Julius Verus Maximinus Augustus, also known as Maximinus Thrax, looms in history as a towering figure whose brief and brutal reign sent shockwaves through the Roman Empire. Born in 173 AD to humble origins, he rose through the ranks of the Roman army, eventually ascending to the highest seat of power in a manner that reflected the turbulence of his era. Maximinus had an imposing stature that set him apart. Standing at 8 feet tall, he was a physical embodiment of raw strength and discipline. Brandishing both military and physical prowess, he was able to earn the loyalty of legions of men that he would wield to ascend to the imperial throne. In the year 235 AD, the Roman Empire found itself in the throes of a crisis. The assassination of Emperor Alexander plunged the realm into disarray, and the legions stationed along the Rhine River proclaimed Maximinus as emperor. His rise marked a stark departure from the traditional Roman aristocracy. He was a soldier emperor, devoid of the refined upbringing that characterized many of his predecessors. Maximinus's iron-fisted rule plunged the Roman world into a relentless nightmare of brutality and dread. Emerging from the rank and file as a common soldier, his origins seemed to etch a chilling cruelty into his very being. He reigned as a merciless despot, demanding an unwavering submission that crushed spirits beneath the weight of his ruthless grip. His subjects were shackled, not only literally, but by heavy taxation and by labor that drained the very life force from their veins, turning them into hollow shells of existence. As Maximinus turned his gaze outward to safeguard the empire's borders, the very heart of his dominion festered with discontent and strife. The relentless clash of swords and shields against distant foes reverberated through the land, drowning out the anguished cries of those oppressed within. Uprisings and rebellions festered like wounds, each region a cauldron of seething resentment against his oppressive reign. The climax of Maximinus's dark saga unfolded in 238 AD, as whispers of his tyrannical reign clawed their way into the ears of discontented factions. A nightmarish coalition took form, forged in desperation. Senators, local militias, and rival claimants to the throne converged like shadows, their collective anger igniting a tempest that bore down upon the emperor. Caught in the tightening rope of insurrection, he faced his reckoning in a maelstrom of conflict and chaos. Something that was bound to happen after his tyrannical rule. But honestly, I just wonder how they pulled it off. I mean, the guy was over 8 feet tall. They must have stood on each other's shoulders to fight him or something, making the most deadly game of chicken fighting ever. Moving on to number 2 is Gogmagog. Gogmagog, an ancient and malevolent figure in British mythology, rises from the shadowed depths of legend like a harbinger of doom. As a monstrous giant, his very name reverberates an unsettling resonance that sends shivers down the spine. Celtic lore describes Gogmagog as one of the last true giants to roam the land. Born from the primeval soil, he stood as a grotesque titan. Legend has it that the giant crossed paths with Brutus of Troy, a hero who ventured to conquer Britain. The encounter between these two larger-than-life figures is a story of epic proportions, with Brutus at war with giants and Gogmagog at the forefront. But it gets interesting when the two finally clash. With Brutus wielding a mighty club, the encounter culminated in a long and violent duel between hero and giant. But the odds were stacked against the giant when Brutus called upon his companion, Corineus, who threw Gogmagog off a cliff in a wrestling match. Why Gogmagog didn't use his weapon in the fight is beyond me, but I digress. Troy later came to become the founder and first king of Britain, giving it its name. Britain, Brutus, I'm sure you hear it. However, even in death, Gogmagog's haunting presence endured, with fears of his return being a constant concern for Brutus and the people of his new kingdom. Did he actually return though? No, but I'm sure the concern was very real at the time. Now, the next giant may not be the biggest on this list, but his story is surely the most iconic of any. At number 1 is none other than Goliath. In the annals of biblical lore, this towering Philistine warrior emerges as a monstrous embodiment of terror, a force that defies mortal comprehension and challenges the very fabric of courage itself. Goliath, a colossal figure said to stand over 9 feet tall, was a living testament to the darkest depths of human conflict. His armor-clad form, decked out in metal and leather, was an imposing silhouette that loomed over the battlefield. His very presence exuded an aura of malevolence, sending shivers down the spines of even the most valiant warriors. Day after day at war, would Goliath dominate his opponents, sending entire battalions running with his massive stature and unmatched combat skills. It was thought that Goliath was truly unstoppable, until his confrontation with a young man named David, a mere shepherd. Armed with nothing more than a slingshot and unwavering faith, David's defiance in the face of such a monstrous adversary defies logic. Like the sheer audacity of challenging Goliath without any combat experience still baffles many today. Upon facing the young David, Goliath would treat him like any other soldier, charging at him with his massive frame, blade in hand ready to strike. David, with his simple sling, steps forward, his gaze unwavering, and fires a single rock at the speeding giant. And by some miracle, it hits Goliath square in the face. No curveball, no changeup, nothing but gas. And Goliath dropped right there. He died. Scientists believe that Goliath reached his colossal size through the same hormone problem that Robert Wadlow had, which made his brain much more vulnerable. So a single rock to the forehead was actually enough to kill the big guy. The story of David and Goliath then became a tale of overcoming impossible odds and is considered to be the first ever underdog story. It's clear today that much fewer giants roam the earth like they did so many centuries ago. But these stories act as a reminder of how small we are not only in this great big universe, but on our own planet. Remember guys, there's always a bigger fish. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be sure to see you in the next one. Be sure to see you in the next one.
Do you mind moving right a little? Oh, sorry, my left. Just right a little. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.